how can I say to you, you are so kind, very, welcoming. And since I came, I have been treated so nicely. So when I go abroad, I'm going to brag about this. I'm going to say, go to India. Go to India and get this extraordinary treatment. Really, I'm just completely moved by the kindness. And really, I mean, I don't deserve it. I'm just, my name in Ethiopia is Mammo. Mammo means a little adorable boy. So I'm a small boy. So now you make me feel like that. So it's very, very, touching and very humbling and very happy. Let me just start with two little stories before I come to the Africa. First, I have a special relationship to Kerala. And my brother there, KJ, Professor KJ, he knows about this from CDS. I keep telling him all the time. And of course Rajesh. And that is when India, early part, when I was still a young boy, they sent teachers from something like 700, 800 teachers. And they came to this place where I was born. The first people who taught me A, B, C, D, English, are people from Kerala. So I've always been attracted. When am I going to go to see Mr. Joseph's place? So now I've come 3 times. Now I'm asking all of you to keep making me come more often. So it's just like home, because the teachers, you connect with them very strongly with teachers. You know that, all of you. So what has happened is I've always been feeling like that about India because of that. Another important thing is I have to say something about my daughter. I'm not saying this because I'm recently bragging about her. She's teaching in a college now, and I didn't expect this because I never knew how good she is in terms of teaching. I say, are you teaching well or not? How is it going? And then I came from South Africa. She's in London teaching with all white teachers. Then you know what? She was supposed to be with me that evening. They told her, no, you can't go because we have a special thing for you. And they said, no, I have to be with my father because he just came from South Africa. I have to be with him. No, we have all this gift for you. And they gave her a lot of gifts. Later she came to me, I'm late, I'm sorry, Bob. The reason why I'm late is because they gave me this thing and a whole list. And you know what the best gift is? You are the best teacher we ever had. All the students say that. And the nicest thing about it is she is amazing, honestly. She came to India, went to the rural areas, stayed for 3 months in India, and the British newspapers put her on the news. And she spent time working with hygiene, helping. And now she says to me, I get all this, you are in India, you didn't take me, Bob. I love India. She really does. So the connection is beautiful. And I like that. And I like you young people to be like her. I want you to go to Africa. All of you, you interviewed me this morning, you should go. And do some interesting things also in Africa. And let's connect. Let's make India matter to Africa. Let's make Africa matter to India. And I am doing it. From my early childhood, my identity, my story is I'm connected to you. It's like you're part of me. And even my daughter is part of you. You see, we're all connected to you. So I'm sorry for starting with this, but I think it's a good thing for all of us to know about. Let me now go to the talk. Rajesh told me that I should not use the PowerPoint very much, but I should probably talk more to tell you. Let me start with this. What's India and what's Africa? And what is the relationship? How do we build a very strong relationship between India and Africa? The one thing we have values. I mean, I don't know if you could put a PowerPoint. Yes. Let's go back here. Yeah, just leave it there. You have Vasudhaiya Kubumabakam. You say humanity is one family. If you believe in this, humanity is one family, you'll never make any war. You'll never hurt anyone. It's one family. You should not hurt family. So you have, when I was in JNU, last year, I was a visiting professor there for 1 month. They had this debate about India. Is India a nation? This kind of debate. I gave a talk. I said, no, don't. I quoted them. I used this. India is a civilization. This is civilization for me. You are above a nation. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I like you to live up to that. And I can see the way you relate to each other, the way you welcome guests. This kind of thing I can see is extraordinary. Not many people do it like this. So what I'm saying to you is, you are a civilization. You say one humanity. We in Africa have what we call Ubuntu. I don't know how many of you know about Ubuntu. Have you ever heard about Ubuntu? Yes? Have you? You have heard about it?
Oh, yes.
Ubuntu me is exactly like Vasudhaiya Kubumabakam. It's like that. I'm sorry for mispronouncing. Forgive me. I'm not a Sanskrit speaker. But what it means is there is an I in you and there is a you in I. We are because you are. It's exactly like your philosophy. So Africa's philosophy of Ubuntu and your philosophy of one human family should be the way by which what I call India matters to Africa, Africa matters to Africa could be constructed. Philosophically, let's construct it. We have values that are deep and we could anchor development, science, any of the way we relate with each other on the powerful principle of this extraordinary humane value. If we go for this humane value, I think we will change the world. We could be the example. At the moment, as you notice, the world is going in the wrong direction. It's very scary. You see what happens in the US, you see all the places where what they say about all this, anybody could do anytime, nuclear something in North Korea, everything. You hear all these things. We do need a few countries that could be examples, that by the grace of God, they have this, from their culture, from their ancestry, from their history, they have actually evolved a powerful philosophy of civilizational philosophy, humane philosophy. I like you to think about this, and I like you to all follow it up, and I would like you to look back in order to look forward. Let's go back to where our people left for us, all the knowledge they left for us. Let's read it, let's understand it, and let's go on and move on, onwards and forwards, to make the world a better place for all of you young people. I mean, I'm a bit older. I've reached 60. You are still very young. This lovely boy, they are young. You are young. I want to make sure that you have a much better life than I have. That's what it means. Better I hurt myself than hurting any one of you. That principle is something we need to do. I like India to be an example in relating with Africa. Can I just say another important thing? The relationship between nations is based on self-interest. It's not good. It's selfish. It should be selfless. Not selfish, selfless. We should create a system, not where one gives like donors. You know, we get donated when some people take all your resources and they give you some money. They play games with you like this. No, we should stop that. When we relate, it should be explicit. Any relationship should be very clear and explicit. The mutual benefit must be explained. When India goes to Africa, it does something. What is the benefit I'm going to get? They should be clear. What benefit are we going to give? They should be clear. It should be stated very open, no mischief, something clear. I think we should build a relationship on the principle of mutual benefit. I would like India to be a great example, especially you in Kerala, because you have a much progressive environment. I like you to really be a model where this relationship of mutual benefit can be constructed whenever you do relate with anyone. If you get students coming here or teachers from here going there, there must be a relationship that you don't lose, but you also don't create unnecessary gains. So the gain must be explicit and clear. So I like a new principle of mutual benefit for our relationships. And I want you to be a model. And I'm demanding that I will not live today without you telling me and signing a contract with me saying, Mammo, we are going to relate with Africa with the principle of mutual benefit. We'll do it, no worries. If you say that to me, then I say I got the best gift, and then I'll go home bragging again like I brag about my daughter. So that from India I got this extraordinary gift, which is no relationship without explicit benefits clearly articulated. Not stealing, not lying, not cheating, not doing all kinds of crazy things. No, 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 no. Can we do that? You agree with me? Yes. Okay. All right. Now I should come to what I call everything is moved but memory. Let me come to the key things you have given me, which is to talk about how do we know Africa, and what is the history of Africa, and what is development, and what's science about Africa. So I have tried to construct some stories about it so that you know about Africa. Let me say this. I have been telling my friends already, a dog is a black dog and a white dog. He's still a dog, black or white. The problem of blackness, color, being used to denounce people, to diminish their identity, to commoditize them, to make them saleable like goods and objects, just by the use of color or language or gender or anything is wrong. Because the fact that you are black as a dog or white as a dog does not change that you still bark as a dog. All right? All the white color doesn't make you any different. There have been extraordinary developments about Africa. First, humanity came from Africa. We are the human origin. I mean, that's it. That's been acknowledged by paleontologists. They have acknowledged, they have done research where humanity came first from Africa. So if humanity came from Africa and slavery came about 500 years ago, that entire history, that long memory, that rich memory, how come we ignore it as if it's, can I just tell you, as if the people have not created anything. In fact, I have to say this to you, almost everything was created from Africa. Can we move? Julius Caesar exclaimed, "Ex Africa semper aliquid novi." Out of Africa comes always something new. Africa is a generator of everything in this universe. I'm not lying to you. If you go about astronomy, I come from Ethiopia. There's an ancient book called Abu Shakar. In that ancient book, there's a prediction about astronomy, not just theology. There's also non-theology about the universe, reflections, about the stars, about everything you think of. I mean, the book, I have to say this to you, I was able to get the opportunity to see the book. I could not carry it. It's too heavy. That whole entire knowledge written in the ancient Ethiopian language called Guinness, which is the alphabet, trust me, is much better than the Roman language. I wish we could use it. I wish we Africans are able to actually understand it. I never learned it. I become a professor. Am I really a professor without learning all this knowledge? You know what? About astronomy, the prediction of the planets is there. Not the 9 planets, which now is moving to 13 planets. Our prediction is about 20 planets. It's in that book, in the ancient Ethiopian book. I am very proud, trust me. There's extraordinary knowledge on almost everything. I'm sorry, I wish I could get a chance to speak to you about all the contributions in chemistry, in physics, in all the sciences, mathematics, in everything. Africans have contributed hugely. So I'm just telling you on the knowledge. Humanity came from Africa. A huge amount of knowledge on all variety of fields came from Africa. I don't understand why Africans were reduced to be commodities, and why still Africans inferiorize themselves and continue to do that, full of colonial virus in their head. They need to decolonize their mind, believe in themselves, and so on. Like I just said to you about my daughter, there were many white teachers. They said, you are the best teacher. They gave her a huge amount of gifts, I'm telling you. And I became so, I don't know, I got so emotional. Almost I became so, how can I say it to you? You become silly about your children. When the children do some interesting things, you get crazy. I got crazy, and I even sent it to KJOSEF, everything. I wrote him, my brother, he couldn't believe my daughter is like this, that kind of thing, Because she's not white, but she was treated like this. So what I'm saying to you is it's very, very important that we understand that Africa has created many things. I can give a number of examples. If Africa is the origin of humanity, its negative data started with slavery over 500 years ago, surely all the thousands of years of history cannot just be empty. It cannot be. So the spiritual knowledge and struggle heritage in Africa are rich. As I just said, Ubuntu is extraordinary philosophy, exactly like your philosophy, very similar to you. And you could see the spirituality, before Christianity, can I just say this to you about colonialism? What did the Europeans say when they colonized us, including you? They say colonialism is philanthropy. They say it's philanthropy. What is it? For those who do not have civilization, imagine you Indians do not have civilization. They say we give them civilization, meaning they reduce you to as if your civilization is not worthy. The same to Africa. Then they say to those who worship whatever they worship, we give them Christianity. To those who do not know how to do economics, we give them commerce. That's what they said. So they say, we have what colonialism they say is good. It's philanthropy. We're sacrificing. We are helping you. That's how they understand it. Those who support colonialism will tell you, we have done a great thing for India because we gave them civilization. We gave them Christianity. Yes, and we gave them commerce. That's what they say. You get me? Very, very important. And they don't think it's negative at all. They don't think it at all. Including the fact that in this commerce, people were traded. People were sold, exchanged. Even that happened, it didn't come to them as if it's a negative thing. There are still people who believe colonialism has done a good job. Recently in South Africa, there is a DA, Democratic whatever party. The lady who is now running the premier of Cape Town, she said colonialism is good. Then the party, there was a big fight to get rid of her, to dismiss her from the party. A big debate is happening in South Africa. There's a debate on decolonizing the education system. There's also a debate, and when this happens, This lady got very upset. I just want to say something about some sciences Africans have done. Africans originated in scientific discoveries. Evidence has been acknowledged by astronomers and engineers from Western research universities that in many major inventions, documented contributions have been made by Africans. Carbon steel was made 2,000 years ago in Tanzania. Astronomical observations in the Mali of the Dogons have been acknowledged by Carl Siegel of Cornell University. Language, mathematical systems, architecture, agriculture, cattle rearing, navigation of inland waterways, open seas, medicine, communication, writing, in all these fields, Africans have been inventors. Actually, I have written a whole thing on this, and maybe I could send it to you. You could read about all. We have really done research on getting all the knowledge that Africans have done, and they still do. I mean, a young boy called Ludwig, 17-year-old, created a patent on water bath. It's sanitation. The entire Western world is now using his water bath. They call him the brightest mind in the universe. Google and other scholars, they all tell him. This young, black South African, still they are geniuses. Almost all of us are potentially geniuses, trust me. It's a question of application. If you have a sense of wonder, a sense of curiosity, a sense of skepticism, a willingness to explore, why not? I mean, you may create something. I'm pretty sure we could all create something. I think when I was doing physics, a revolution made me change from physics to something else. I mean, I became very radical. I think by now I probably would have got a Nobel Prize. Let me make you joke about it, but anyway. In mathematics, there was an ancient mathematicus from Ethiopia demonstrated that Africans use binary logic of mathematical calculation, which is similar to today's Internet Explorer and other computer systems. I like you to look at it in the YouTube. You can do it, and Open University admitted, they were very proud that the Ethiopians have invented the logic of mathematics. That is very different. For example, when you say 7 times 8 is 56, you do it differently. The 8 you divide it, the first one you multiply it, then every time you do it, for example, if it's you multiply 7 times 2 is 14. If you divide 8 by 2 is 4. 4 times 14 is 56 again. It goes on like that until it reaches 1. So the binary logic of mathematics is something also Africans have invented. Also the Yorubas in Nigeria have also this binary logic. Okay, continue. The first university, I know we debate with India, my Indian friends, but the university in India was also original, but the university is not the same as the kind of modern universities that we have in the Indian one, as far as I read it. You can correct me. I will be very humble to be corrected. But you do also have created university. India has. So I'm proud of you. But it's not Europe that created universities first. Who created it? It's the first university in the world was African. The Al-Karounin University, founded by an African woman in Fez, Morocco, in 1859. This is the Guinness Book of World Records says so. The second university in the world was African, Al-Azhar University of Egypt, built in 969 AD. I have been there in Al-Azhar University, which still exists today. In Europe, the University of Bologna was formed in 1088. 229 years after the first university by the African woman, Fez was started it. I have written an article on this in a magazine, and it's almost everyone is now reading about it. I did some research, and I found all this information. So, the first university came from Africa. Astronomy, mathematics. I could tell you in physics, chemistry, I didn't do all this. I just wanted to give you a few examples because I can't do everything. But everything wonderful have come out of Africa. And I like you to know Africa, not in the way the media talks about Africa, which is very negative. How does the media talks about Africa? The Economist said Africa is a hopeless continent in 2005. After 10 years, they changed their mind. They say Africa now is a hopeful continent. So I don't understand them. I don't understand the media people. I'm glad I'm not a journalist, because I don't think it's a good thing to say the whole continent is hopeless And then at the same time, he come back again and say, it's now becoming hopeful. There is Afro-pessimism. You know, there's no optimism in that sense about Africa. They think Africa is a failure. They don't think Africa is a success. So we have that negative account. But to be honest with you, that negative account is very journalistic and very shallow. It's not deep. It's not anchored on real knowledge. It's just simply superficial in the way we just describe superficially things. So I think the superficial understanding of Africa should be changed. The real understanding of Africa should be promoted. I think we should do that. So I think that's, please, next, yes. I want to just mention a very good friend of mine. He did his PhD at Oxford, and he was a very strong Pan-Africanist, and he died in Kenya, in Nairobi. Where is the ambassador? He died in Nairobi. I don't know who killed him. And I felt very, very sad about him. But look what he was saying, just some of the good things he says about Africa. Okay. Do not agonize, he says to all Africans. Organize. That's backward never, forward ever, he says. I love Africa and I want to do the same. You see, he used to say, the happiest day of my life, Madiba's release from 27 years of prison in Robben Island. He says, I mean, I just want to tell you, each of you can also reflect on something and do it yourself. He is one individual, which I thought is very good for young people for you to listen, that he says like that, let us make Africa our life struggle. This is the kind of thing he used to say. Let's make it like that. So he was like that. Okay, let's continue. Yeah. But the most important thing now is that there are 55 states in Africa. We have 55 policies, plus the unwelcome imposition of often the one-size-fits-all policy from outside that most do not seem able to afford or do anything with. Let me just say this. Our biggest problem now in Africa is that Africans are divided. The division is not made by us. The division is a colonial division. And the colonial division was extremely cynicism. Why? People that should be put together were pulled apart. People that should not be put together were put together. Let me give you a concrete example. When they formed Nigeria, the Hausas and the Fulanis are in the north. Then you have the Igbos and others in the Delta area. The wealth of Nigeria is in the Delta area. So Lord Lugard, who was running the country around the independence, the 1960s, when they decided to leave Nigeria, Lord Lugard had a party, and his mistress is the one who said, what should we call this country we are forming? Should we call it Niger? Should we call it Nigeria? Nigeria, drunk, they're drinking. And they called it Nigeria. That's how Nigeria's name came. All I'm saying to you is, the cynicism is what like. The army is from the north. The control of the wealth is also from the north. The people from the south, then what happened? We had the Biafra War. You see, we had a division. All the civil wars you see in Africa is because the division, its families are divided. The borders were drawn very cynically, not intelligently. They just were drawn so that divisions happen, so the colonial powers can come back. I'm just telling you, I was recently in Yaoundé, the Pan-African University. I was teaching the Pan-African University. I was embarrassed, frankly, to tell you, because at least you, by the grace of God, you speak your language, everything, you are okay. I think the British didn't do that to you, whatever happens. This is very important. The people, I talked to something like 10, wardens in hotels and so on. And I said, I do not want to say merci beaucoup. I want to say thank you. Like in Yoruba you say ishi. I wanted to say like that. They couldn't tell me, they don't know. They don't know their language. They were born there. Supposing they were, even my children, they are in England, I make sure they learn their language. I have to do that, that's my responsibility. It's a failure if I don't do that. It's their identity, they have to learn it. So the people live in Yaoundé, they don't speak their language. They were embarrassed when I said to them, I'm not happy. Then I gave a conference last day. In my conference talk, I've talked about France. The French colonialism is evil, I'm telling you, it really is. They had the principle of what they call évoluer. The native evolves into a citizen, to be a French citizen. So what it is that almost everyone has to degrade themselves. They don't believe in themselves. They have to deny themselves to be French. Wrong. This is not nice. Even though you are colonized by the British, you're still Indians. You understand. Whatever happens, you are there. What did these people do? They were like that. They feel more French than the French. There is also more problem. Then there was Omar Bongo from Gabon, a leader in France, a leader in Gabon, very French orientated. Africa without France is like a car without a driver. France without Africa is like a car without petrol. This is what they used to do. Something like 65% of the reserves of all these 15 so countries in French part of Africa, so-called Francophone countries, the reserve is done by the French treasury. The inflation rate is determined by France, not by them. Can you imagine? And then when South Africa had Thabo Mbeki, who is very Pan-Africanist, and started in Côte d'Ivoire and he started struggling, the French fought him. I'm telling you, they really did fight him a lot. I'm glad they didn't kill him, but they fought him very hard because they didn't want an independent thinking African leader to intervene. And South Africa wanted to support this, try to change it, but they wouldn't allow it. So it's a very complicated situation we live in. And in the way this country, the franc is dead in France. It's alive in these countries. I was using the franc. Can you imagine? This is wrong. You see, Africa, francophone, lusophone, anglophone, yeah? Levantine phone. No, Africa is not a phone. No phone. Africa, philia. We need to love Africa. It's worth loving Africa. Why do we need to love Africa? Can I just tell you, the richest continent in this planet is Africa. Let me just give you two concrete examples. If you take the DRC Congo has resources estimated to 24 trillion. That's the combined gross national product of all of Europe and America in one place in Africa alone. Take solar energy, the Sahara Desert. The physics is not difficult. The engineering may be a bit difficult. If we want to create a green zone of the world in the Sahara, we should very much work very hard to trap the solar energy and to trap wind energy and create a very strong system where electricity is generated across Africa. Not only can we provide the potential, what I read, the potential, is not only enough for Africa, we can give free energy to Europe. I'm telling you, we can give them, and I don't think, if we control it, I like Africans to be, not to be like selfish or anything, to share. If there is an abundant energy, why not share it? Why not give it even if it's possible? All I'm saying to you is that the huge amount of resources we exist in Africa. In the place where I am now, in South Africa, if you take the mining sector, something like 2.5 trillion, just in one sector. There should be, can I just tell you, if Africans own African resources, everyone would be a millionaire. Look what Norway did. 20 years ago, they got oil. They had a national debate. They said, what should we do with the oil? Should we give it to the state? Should we give it to the companies? Or should we give it to the people of Norway? What did they do? They decided to give it to the people of Norway. And then what happened? Now, every Norwegian, after 20 years, has become a millionaire. They can earn 2 million kroner, from the child to an old person. Can you imagine? Maybe that was, I was saying this last year, probably now the money has grown. they are doing, and you know the global happiness index? Who is number 1 in the world? Norway. Because they are all millionaires. In order to be poor, you have to struggle in Scandinavia, to be honest with you. I worked in a university in Scandinavia for over 10 years. I didn't see any poor person. My office, I never had a lock. My house, I never had a lock. If I do it in London, I probably need a lock. If in Nairobi, Nairobi, you need more lock. In South Africa too, you need more lock. Because majority of the people who should not be poor are poor. I mean, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange is the ninth largest in the world. The main companies are foreign. They're not South African. This is not right. There should be a system where Indians own India, Africans own Africa. If we do that, and if we create India matters for Africa, Africa matters to India, and we construct a relationship, we could make, all of you will be millionaires. Would you like to be millionaires? Would you like? Yes. If you want to be millionaires, let's make Africa be owned by Africans. Let's work. It's also your task. Let's also work to make India be owned by you. Then we do that, we ally with ourselves, we support each other, and it's not a difficult thing. I'm telling you, we'll have a beautiful world, no one will be starving, we'll all be happy, you know, no beggars on the street. Things like that, let's think about it. It can be done, it's possible. It's just that we don't think about it. We're too selfish and isolated, we don't connect with each other, we don't trust each other, our trust capital is very low, and that's probably why we don't get what we should get. And that's the biggest problem. Let's continue. Yeah. In Africa, the challenge is how do we change 55 noises into one voice? Every year, 6 times more resources flow out of Africa annually than what comes in. Illicit financing is very high. And I'll give you some figure. Africa is a donator. It's not being donated. Learning to break the global value chain, convert the abundant natural wealth for sustainable well-being, appreciate and link African values for creative reconstruction. That's the main thing. The Ubuntu value is not something we should ignore. We should put it forward. Look at how Africa is huge. In the map, in the global map, Africa is not still like this. It is too small. But look how Africa is. China, Argentina, yes? Yes? Europe? India? All these countries are still bigger than these countries. This is Africa. And it's got huge resources. Too much resources. And who owns the resources? The wrong people own the resources, not the Africans. Still don't. The same thing with South Africa. South Africa is still not owned by South Africans. And it's not good. Less than 3 million. See, the division is also very complicated. It doesn't make sense. Continue. 15 African countries are landlocked, and transport and communications links on the continent is still rudimentary. Markets too small to attract investment and too balkanized to generate meaningful economies of scale. Only 5 have a population of over 30 million, 8 have less than 1 million each, 14 between 1 and 4 million. The key interesting thing here is trade still now. Main economic trade is between Europe and Africa. Not between each other, for example, India and Africa or inter-Africa trade. It's not like that. It still is complicated because of the decolonization hasn't been completed yet. Because of that, there's this problem. Okay? So this is, I think for all of you, I want you to be also saying the same thing. This is written by a man in California. He's a white man. This is what he says. I am an African, not because I was born there, but because my heart beats with Africa's. I'm an African, not because my skin is black, but because my mind is engaged by Africa. Continue. I'm an African, not because I live on its soil, but because my soul is at home in Africa. When Africa weeps for her children, my cheeks are stained with tears. When Africa honors her elders, my head is bowed in respect. Continue. When Africa mourns for her victims, my hands are joined in prayer. When Africa celebrates her triumphs, my feet are alive with dancing. I'm an African, for her blue skies takes my breath away, and my hope for the future is bright. Continue. I'm an African, for her people greet me as family and teach me the meaning of community. I'm an African, for her wildness quenches my spirit and brings me closer to the source of life. When the music of Africa beats in the wind, my blood pulses to its rhythm. When I become the essence of sound, when the colors of Africa dazzle in the sun, the senses drink in its rainbow, and I become the palette of nature. When the stories of Africa echo round the fire, my feet walk in its pathways, and I become footprints of history. I am an African because she is the cradle of our birth and nurtures an ancient wisdom. I am an African because she lives in the world's shadow and bursts with radiant luminosity. Yes, continue. I am an African because she is the land of tomorrow, and I recognize her gifts as scared. This is, his name is Vissa's poem Echoes. I'm an African speech in 1960s, which should continue to inspire generations. And I like you to all say I'm an African too, like him. Another contract. Can we do that? Yes. Yes, we should all be connected in a very interesting way. And honestly, it's beautiful. Africa is beautiful. There's a lot of, you'll get a sense of, I mean, I love it. When I recently got an offer of a job to go to America, I said no. I prefer not to be paid in Africa than going to America. No. I love Africa. That's what it is. The stereotypes. Hopeless continent, Afro-pessimism, failure narrative. The new narrative is there is now rise of Africa, Afro-optimism, a full continent. We are having this challenge, but we need to kind of deal with it. Let's continue. Let's continue. Let me continue. Yes. Julius Caesar, Nyerere said, it's better that we face the problems of Africa as Africa, for our history of being pushed around is an African history, and our strength to stop this is an African strength. That's quite good. Let me just say this to you. This is very important. It also affects you. This is what I read. There's a new book written by a Canadian, and it is called The Betrayal of Africa. When I read that book, I shook. I really did. But I just want to give you, can you believe this? In 2012, the last year of recorded data, poor countries received a total of $1.3 trillion, including all aid, investment, and income from abroad. But that same year, some $3.3 trillion flowed out of them. In other words, developing countries sent $2 trillion more to the rest of the world than they received. Since 1980, these net outflows add up to a staggering total of $16.3 trillion are going out of us. That is how much money has been bled out of the global south, including Africa, over the past few decades. Continue. And yes, it's trillions. Add in the massive corruption enabled by Western interests, plus the violent coups and conflicts that Western interests facilitated, and there's only one conclusion. Rich countries aren't developing poor countries are developing rich ones. His name is Gerald Kaplan, and this is an article he did also. But you could read his book, Africa is Betrayal, The Betrayal of Africa. Can you believe this? There is such a powerful narrative in Western societies that Africa is poor and that it needs our help. This research shows that what African countries really need is for the rest of the world to stop systematically looting them. While the form of colonial plunder may have changed over time, its basic nature remains unchanged. All I'm telling you is illicit financing. 6 times more resources flowing out. 16.5 trillion from the 1980s moving, in part also largely from Africa, is not nice. The world we live in is dangerous. It's not fair. It's unjust. It's cruel. It's evil. I don't like it. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. There is also this problem, who is an African? The reason is there's Africans of the blood, Africans of the soil, Africans of settlements. These are the, for example, if you go to South Africa, You'll find a community. I often go to eat, when I want to eat Indian food, I go to Ludrowi. There's a place in South Africa, in Pretoria. You have Indians all over, yeah. You have people who have settled there, and like Mauritius and other places where you have, as you said earlier, India is connected to us, both geographically, also in terms of the population. So there's also Africans of consciousness, all those who refuse to make issues of difference in identity and recommend that all unite by putting Africa first. Blacks, Arabs, whites, Indians can all come together, but the main important thing is they have an identity. The identity is expressed for Africa. If they do it like that poem I mentioned to you, he's a white man, he's American, but he says, I love Africa. And you look how beautiful the poem he wrote about Africa. I mean, that kind of thing is what's very important, okay? So, Africans of blood, this is identification using race, it's not good. Africans of the soil is also not very good. Africans of settlements, Africans of consciousness. I prefer Africans of consciousness when we say, I'm an African and I'm human. That's enough. Like your philosophy, humanity is one family. That is a beautiful one. I think we should go for that. Okay? Let's continue. I think there's a big movement called Pan-Africanism, and the reason is the division of Africa as it is now is bad, because it creates civil wars, it creates conflicts. To remove it, some people suggest maybe the best thing is to create, like India is the most diverse nation, but what has happened to India now? It's a united country, it's wonderful. And I think we should respect the early leaders who succeeded in doing it. I was recently in Pune, I saw the Mahatma Gandhi's. I was so impressed, I'm telling you, the simplicity. That level of simplicity just touched my heart. And how he said about his secretary, he worked with him for 35 years. He says, how come you die before me? I should have gone before you. Isn't that touching? I mean, that kind of humanity is incredible. I mean, that's the kind of thing we need, and I think it's very, very important. Okay, let's go on. I think I should leave this more, but let's go. These are the people who are, okay, let's go on. There's all kinds of these movements. You see, they formed the Organization of African Unity, but the Organization of African Unity is not really a unity of Africa. There's the African Union, but it's still funded by Europe. It can't be African Union if you don't fund it yourself. So it's very, very complicated. The Pan-African University where I went to teach, they don't even have a library. They do not have a computer lab. I mean, there's interesting students. I enjoy the students. We had a good time. But I was surprised. And you know who funds it? Germans. How can you do that? Why can't the Africans fund? I mean, instead of stealing the money, why don't they use it for the university? I don't understand us at all. Why? I mean, you can't call it a Pan-African University, and then you say the Germans fund you, the Swedes fund you, the European Union funds you? No. It's not good. It's not good. So we have this problem, we have all this wave of African Renaissance, African Union, NEPAD, African Peace and Security Council, African Parliament, all this, the Pan-African University, they're all inspired by Thabo Mbeki, Obasanjo, and others, but the Wade from Senegal, but it's not really functioning quite well. Continue. We have still, what I told you, no Africaphone yet. Everything is Francophone, Lusophone. No, less horizontal integration, still vertical integration with the colonial powers is stronger. 70 to 80% of the trade is between France and its former colonies than between each other, even though they may be close to each other. It's very sad, okay? Continue. We had a lot of debates about how to form Africa, but there was divisions. There was a Monorovia group, the Brazzaville group was the French part. The Monorovia group was more the western part. Casablanca group was more the left-wing part, but they never agreed with each other. Okay, and nothing really happened after that. Okay, continue. So still today, Africans are not engaged with each other horizontally. They continue to engage with others, more like the former colonial powers, like example France. Now the BRIC expected to trade with these rising powers to the tune of $4 trillion by 2030. What then is South Africa's role in shaping Africa's future is a very interesting question we ask. Because the whole idea, when South Africa became in 1994 free, the three things they did. They said reconciliation, democracy, and Africa Renaissance. But I don't see the Africa Renaissance part. The reconciliation part is, yeah. Democracy, they talk about in South Africa. That I know. Okay, continue. So, it's not easy. The change from OAE to AU has not brought up substantive change yet. And where is Africa now? Our values can promote unity. Like your values, humanity is one family. The shared values, the African communal association and memory is good. Our shared historical experience, the universal significance of African freedom for humanity. Putting Africa first is to put humanity first also, because Africans were degraded, enslaved, and commodified, sold, bartered. If all humanity accepts they are human, to do that, we need to put Africans first. And I think all of us should do it. The combination of spirituality and materiality in the African experience, we're not completely material, we're also spiritual. So I think we could also use South African stuff, like the African Renaissance, but it's not happening. Let's see. So our genetic memory is associational, communal and collective. We're not instrumental, calculative, individualistic. We are now confused by coping. We try to retain our associational values, but we also try to be individualistic, instrumentalistic. We need to reclaim our deep values, clear up the confusion, retain our associational identity, our Ubuntu. We should not be confused by the individualism of pricing everything and valuing nothing. And with I think, therefore I am, we must root our unity with Ubuntu. I am because you are, with Mat, with Ethiopianism, with Pan-Africanism in the African Renaissance. I have to tell you about Ethiopianism a little bit. The Ethiopianism movement was created in the United States. And it was created from the churches. The reason is the white churches will be going and talking, and they will be saying, if you're black, you're a Lucifer, you're Satan, and you are in the audience. So what did they say? How can you call us like that? We don't like what you're saying. Can you give us independence? Can you make us pastors? They refused to be pastors. So what did they do? They formed independent churches. And the church, the first church they formed in America, in Pennsylvania, Allentown, Pennsylvania, the first church was called the Ethiopian Church of South Africa, in America. That church initiated a whole movement across the African world, in the Caribbean, in West Africa, in East Africa, Southern Africa. The strongest movement was in South Africa. In fact, the liberation movement of South Africa, the African National Congress, was founded by Ethiopians. They were called, the first leader, John Langa Bilele Dube, was called the pronounced Ethiopianist, always under threat, because he was very much on colonialism. 175 years scramble for Africa, the division from that time still unrectified. New scramble threats again. Now everybody is saying China's inclusion in Africa is like a new scramble. I don't know, but let's think about this. The hyphenated Africa with phone persists, Francophone, Lusophone, Anglophone, Levantine phone. Africa is filia, not a phone. This phone has to end. And continue. We now have movements, the Pan-African Federation movement, to unite Africa within the generation, not in the century from 1963. The African Union Student Youth Council. The first All-Africa Youth Congress is going to be held in Kigali, Rwanda. And I am the special advisor for this movement. And we are definitely going to get inventors, artists, creators, all the youth of Africa. We're expecting to at least get from every state 5 young people. And then from the rest of the outside also. They will come, and we're thinking of creating strong network, and I'm behind this. Supporting the young people, you young people, to drive you so well so that you can actually, I think the best thing for Africa is to get the young people to unite. If we get it practically done, that I'm telling you, will solve all the problems. You are important. You are the future, you young people. Don't undermine yourself. You're number one. We need to work with you, to empower you, to enable you, to entitle you. Very, very important we do that. And all of us who are older than you must work very hard to make sure that you actually do very interesting things and get all these values I've just described to you. This idea that that's extraordinary civilizational value that India has created, that your ancestors have created. You should respect it, value it. Not all this crap that comes from all this instrumentalistic crap from the West. Don't. From colonialism, everything. No. All these clauses, everything. No. Do something better. You know? So I think this is very important. We have the Pan-African Federation movement. We have nodes. In fact, the first meeting was held in Nigeria last month, this month actually, on the 15th of 15th, 16th of August. And there was, in fact, I could send you to what outcome came out of it. All of the young people can join both the Youth Congress and the Pan-African Federation. The Africa Talent Hub to make education, creativity, innovation, social entrepreneurship. A driver to make all the African youth fully employable, make Africa work as agency. That's a very important thing we're doing. In fact, we may even get support from the Indian government. The Ministry of Science and Technology may support us by the grace of God. That I think we may be able to get the support. We had a very good education innovation conference in Pune, and there were very interesting people we met in the networks. And when we discussed, they were very nice, they were very open. I mean, I'm really happy, to be honest with you. I'm critical, but they were very open to me, so which is a very good thing. You never know. We could also connect this thing I'm telling you, Africa Matters, to India, India Matters to Africa. We may set it up with this talent hub. We want the talent destination zone, Africa, not the talent departure zone of the world. And we want talent to come to Africa. We want you to come to Africa. We don't want you to go to America. Is that okay? How many of you would like to come to Africa if we invite you? Oh, that's nice. Now you made my day. Okay. I think we nearly, I think let's leave this, I think, yeah. I think let's go, yeah. Yes, let's go. Yeah, okay, let's go. Yeah. Okay. What the final point is. Thank you. I think the future is not some place we're going, but one we're creating. The paths to it are not found, but made. The activity of making them change for the makers and the destination. If not unity now in Africa, when? In fact, unity not with Africa, even unity between Africa and India. If not Renaissance now, when? Let's learn to act, do, and be more than say, talk, and fight. Let's continue, and I think there's a plan. Africa, for the Africans, no one knows when the hour of Africa's redemption comes. It is in the wind. It's coming one day like a storm, it will be here. When that day comes, all of Africa will stand together. How good and pleasant would it be before God and man? Yeah, to see unification of Africa. Yeah, says Bob Marley. I don't know, do you know how many of you Buffalo Soldiers? Yeah? Nice, eh? Very nice song. He's like a genius. Okay, I like it. To free the people still under colonial rule, let's all accept to die a little, or even completely, so that African unity doesn't become mere words. This is Ahmed Bembela, Algeria. They say, if you're Muslim, you must go to Mecca. If you are Christian, you must go to Jerusalem. If you are a revolutionary, you must go to Algeria. They say. So Ahmed Bembela says, of all the northern countries, Algeria is very progressive, and they supported Nelson Mandela, many things. So it's better we face the problems of Africa as Africa, for our history of being pushed around is an African history, and our strength to stop this is an African strength, okay? Continue. The consciousness of self is not the closing of a door to communication. Philosophic thought teaches us, on the contrary, that it's guaranteed. This is very nice. Had I more than one life to live, I would spend it for Africa. This is George Padmore. He's from Trinidad. When Ghana became independent, Kwame Nkrumah brought him to be one of the ministers. So, but unfortunately he got ill. But he said, if he had more life, he would have spent it for Africa. This is Africa's age. This is the dawn of her fulfillment, the beginning of her climb to sublimity. Albert Luthili, the commitment to Africa is a love thing, and a love thing can only come from the heart. I say Africa must unite as a big bang, even if the heavens fall. That's what I think Africans must learn. Even I like us to unite. Even Indians, we should work together to do it, okay? I think this is what Nyerere said. This is my plea to the new generation of African leaders and African peoples. Work for unity with a firm conviction that without unity there is no future for Africa. I reject the glorification of the nation state, which we have inherited from colonialism, and the artificial nations we are trying to forge from that inheritance. We are all Africans trying to be Ghanaians or Tanzanians. Fortunately for Africa, we have not been completely successful. Unity will not make us rich, but it can make it difficult for Africa and the African peoples to be disregarded and humiliated. And it will therefore increase the effectiveness of the decisions we make and try to implement for our development. My generation led Africa to political freedom. The current generation of leaders and peoples of Africa must pick up the flickering torch of African freedom, refuel it with their enthusiasm and determination and carry it forward. You know what Nyerere said? Tanzania is a colonial mistake. He said, he actually argued with Kenyatta and Milton Obote to see if they could form one, when the British used to call it East Africa. When Kenyatta refused, I don't know why. But they said, be the president. They told him to be the president. It doesn't matter, we can be anything else. Why don't you become the, he refused. So Tanzania, he said, is a colonial mistake. So all the states in Africa are colonial mistakes. They are drawn by the wrong logic. They don't make sense. The division is dangerous. If you go to South Africa, the Bedeles and the Zulus, they speak the same language. Some are in Zimbabwe, others are in South Africa. I mean, it's the same thing. We have the same thing in Ethiopia. Recently, Eritrea split from Ethiopia. I lost my father. I have to tell you this. He could not understand this, and he really died because of this, my dad. Go and talk to all my family, they tell me this. I was away in Europe and America. But he passed away because of this. He could not understand how this can happen. I mean, I think things like that can happen. It's a dangerous thing what's happening. This whole colonial mistake has to be eradicated. We need to have the right to be wrong. Our own mistakes, we should make it, not other people's mistake on us. No. Correct other mistakes? No. Let's do it ourselves. I think that agency we should have. I think that's it, yeah. So I think we have, as I say to you, let's go for the African Student Council, the African Talent Hub. Both are means to create the Africa transformative innovation for social entrepreneurship to make the Africa work without losing, as it does now, its rich resources. So I think, yes, continue. Finally, I think I'm nearly there. I think it's finished. I've finished. Thank you very much.